Well, you brought this up. There's a lot of conversation about quarterbacks, how you know your quarterback is the guy. I said before the season started, I don't need the Texans to have a winning season for it to be a quote-unquote success. I simply need two things. I need to see them win 6 or 7 games, improve on that number 4 number we've seen 2 years in a row. And the second thing is just by the end of the year to know whether Davis Mills is the guy or not. Even if the answer is no and you go after Stroud or Young or whatever, but you have to have a definitive answer. You can't be on the fence. That's my two things for success. What have you seen when you've watched these quarterbacks throughout? I mean, we're heading into week 3 as far as what you like and the skills you want in a quarterback.
I watched some of the throws that Mills made on Sunday again with the NFL app to just
NFL
make
Plus?
sure that what I saw on Sunday was what I thought I saw. And if there was anything that I maybe missed. And once again, there are just too many moments where with Mills, he's inaccurate. And if you're going to be a quarterback the way that Mills has to be a quarterback, where you're standing in the pocket and you're delivering, you can't be a guy who gets rattled, and you can't be a guy who ever misses. You got to hit guys on the money whenever you can so that maybe, best case scenario, with that skill set, you can be like a Kirk Cousins.
Did you rewatch that play with Brandon Cooks and view it differently through a different lens?
The throw into the end zone?
Yeah.
No, that was a drop.
So you still think that was on Cooks?
Cooks screwed that up.
I was on a little bit higher on Mills than you were, but I mean, what we've seen so far has backed up what you thought, that he is not the guy. And look, he's here during a rebuild, so fine. But like I said, they need to figure it out regardless. Lovie Smith did meet with the media yesterday.
Yep, I was out there.
And, oh, yeah, you were. I didn't realize that. Boots on the ground, Paul. Lovie talked about the fact that he thinks that they may be closer than some people think, but they have some things to work on.
It's just a few plays here and there. And, we had the ball first and goal on the 4, correct? I mean, one of the areas just we got to be able to score a touchdown in that situation. Davis is our quarterback. But you go throughout. I mean, there must seem like every drive there's something that we look at right now that we say that eventually when we get it right, we can get over the hump with that play. I understand it starts with the quarterback, but there's so much more.
He was very defensive of Mills during the press conference. There were a lot of questions that were being asked, and none of them were specifically targeting Mills. They were asking, hey, what do you need to see out of the passing game for it to be successful? Yeah, and also, what the hell is Lovie supposed to say? I didn't ask a question about Mills while I was there because there were enough that had been asked, but also he clearly wants Mills to just make plays. And if Mills isn't making plays, like what more can you really say? All you can do is make sure that the guy still has some confidence in himself going into the next week. I really do hope Mills proves me wrong. But yesterday, when watching the game on Monday night with Josh Allen in a 3rd and long, you feel like he's going to convert every single one.
There's really no question.
It's a massive difference, and I just got jealous. I mean, I remember back when the Texans were looking for a quarterback, I would talk about all the quarterbacks I have hungry eyes for, just so I could play that song.
Hungry eyes.
Yeah,
like that.
I love that song. But I've been consistently, over my time here, jealous. And most quarterbacks here have had a lot of excuses made for them. And I'm a quarterback snob. I feel like I'm pretty damn good when it comes to determining whether or not a guy is actually special early on in their career.
So who have you evaluated early on that has ended up working that maybe some people didn't see something in?
I would say more so I know when the guy's not good.
Got it.
The only exception would be, to this point, Josh Allen. And Allen is an exception because
a lot of people, though,
he stunk the first couple of years in the league with some things, but
Wyoming.
Fast player, big player, cannon for an arm. Like, there was something to work with there that you don't have in a lot of other quarterbacks. But with Marcus Mariota, with Mitchell Trubisky, sometimes the guy just isn't comfortable throwing the football down the field. And if you find yourself consistently in 3rd and long situations and you're like, should we quick kick? Should we run a draw play? Should we just get a couple of yards here to make it for an easier special team situation? That's where you are with Mills, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And what bothered me yesterday, Vanessa, when I tweeted that, people were saying, well, that's an unfair comparison to make between Allen and Mills. Allen's in a better situation. And there's no denying that. He has a better wide receiver than Brandon Cooks and Stephon Diggs. He has a lot of things in his favor. But are we just going to make a million excuses for Davis Mills and what we saw on Sunday, as opposed to just acknowledging that he's not that good?
Right.
And I was here back in 2016 when everyone was making excuse after excuse after excuse for Brock Osweiler, a guy who I also didn't really feel that good about when they brought him in, because he was a guy that got benched for dead Peyton Manning in the playoffs when the Broncos went on that Super Bowl run. Manning had been benched for Osweiler, and Osweiler got benched for this version of Peyton Manning, who was clearly not the same guy. But over that season in 2016, we were continuously talking ourselves into the idea that Osweiler just needs time with the system. He didn't get to meet with Bill O'Brien in the offseason.
And you were out on him.
Yes, I was out.
Is this why you and Bill got into it every now and then? Do you think that kind of fed?
I think Bill was out on him too.
Oh,
I think Bill was out on him pretty early too.
Could be.
And if you go back in time and take a look at what took place over the course of that year, there were lots of awkward kind of confrontations between the two of them, especially at the very end when they decided to just bench Osweiler for Tom Savage, which was met with a standing ovation. I remember, I think it was a game that Osweiler with the Texans played against the Vikings in Minnesota, and it was just awful. Like it was a painful watch. And I think that was where I was like, I'm officially out. I'm not making excuses anymore for this guy. And you can say to yourself, oh, well, with time, the offensive line in front of Mills gets better. Oh, with time, Pep Hamilton gets better as a play caller. But why not just look at the guy in a league full of professionals and say, he either has it or he doesn't. And to this point, Mills does not look like he's special. Does that mean he's a bad player that doesn't belong in the league? No. Very few quarterbacks are special. But you want to have a guy who's special, and you should be looking for a guy who's special. And I feel pretty confident in that Mills is probably not the guy.
Maybe here for the next year for the rebuild, but they should move on after. One of the issues Mills has had is that he does overthrow the ball. Here's Lovey on that issue.
Whenever you see something like that going on, I think most times it's a combination of both. Receiver can run a better route. Maybe protection could be a little bit better. And then our throw could be a little bit better. It's normally, without going over each specific one that fell a little short or didn't happen the way we like, most of the time it's that combination of all.
Again, defensive there. And that was the theme. No one was really pressing Lovey on Davis Mills. I imagine those questions will perhaps get a little bit more spicy as the weeks go along. The problem that the Texans have, unlike the Brock Osweiler situation, where at the very least, Tom Savage, you don't know what his potential is, but you had a pretty good idea of what his potential was, which was not a whole lot of anything given how many times he had transferred in college. In this spot, you don't have anyone really to turn to. Like Kyle Allen, not a good player. Jeff Driscoll is a gadget player that most recently was playing tight end before the Texans decided, hey, let's try to find a way to work him into an unconventional package that throws defenses off. And I think that's kind of the biggest bummer of this year. You have no choice but to stick with Mills for as long as you possibly can. I'm already thinking to myself, though, about, getting back on the apps, if you will.
Any parallels between him and Mitchell Trubisky?
I think a lot. I think there's a lot there. I think, right now what you are seeing with Trubisky is questions. There were people chanting Kenny Pickett's name over that game. And Mike Tomlin is trying his best, much like with Lovie Smith, to say all of the right things and to continue to go with, hey, this is our quarterback as the public sentiment. But they actually have an alternative. And I feel for Trubisky in that, like, he is once again under fire, and the fans clearly are out on him, and they should be. He, like Davis Mills to this point, is unwilling to throw the football down the field. Unlike with Mills, you can make this excuse for Mills at the very least. It's not like Mills is working with Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and a bunch of other good receivers that Pittsburgh has. Mills has just Cooks, but still, pretty early with these guys, you don't need to make excuses for them.